Morning, everyone. Can I also just add my delight at being here in front of human beings? You know, the screen phenomenon has sort of just become tiring and weary, and I love the expression from Zoom to room, because I think that's where we're going to have to be. So anyway, I'm delighted to be here. I want to talk to you today about why open banking is the foundation of the future of finance in the UK. And it may surprise you that having just authored and spent a year working on a review on fintech, you might be thinking that I'm a massive advocate for the expression fintech. I dislike the expression and the term fintech. Let me tell you why. I think fintech has been a growing phenomenon for some time, but despite that, it is still largely misunderstood. To many, it's about rapid startup growth, caricatured here in the UK by app developers just down the road in Shoreditch. To others, it's about digitizing analog content, digital current accounts provided by established incumbent financial institutions. But these versions of fintech underplay the impact technological disruption can have. When technological revolution arrives, their impact is not iterative. It is transformative. This is beginning to manifest in finance, and open banking, I think, has been fundamental to this change. Let me make 3 points. Firstly, on many, many occasions, people are pushed into suboptimal financial products or completely excluded altogether, simply because the data isn't stacked in their favor. We think that currently there's around 1 million UK citizens who cannot get access to a bank account. Open banking is providing that opportunity for businesses to get a much deeper understanding of their customers' financial history, including loans, credit cards, investments, and many more, in a much more quick, simple, cost-effective, efficient way. And it's rapidly transforming mainstream access to finance. Secondly, the exchange of customer data has leveled the playing field in a way between incumbents and new entrants, and it's increasing competition. Since 2015, there has been a 64% increase in the number of startups in the fintech space and scale-ups based here in London. And we now think there's over 3,000 fintechs headquartered here in London. Never mind the countless other new players which are based in the regional hubs up and down the UK. Thirdly, open banking has demanded a fundamental rethink of the traditional banking business, and it's enabled banking to become much more customer-centric. We have a long way to go still. It's made the development of new financial products much easier and much faster. As Imran said, nearly 4 million consumers and businesses were using open banking enabled products now at the start of 2021. So improved access, wider availability, the consumer in the driving seat, in a much more competitive market is what we're seeing. That is the transformative nature of technology, not just startups or digitizing the analog, but completely changing the nature of provision and consumption in financial services. This is the version of fintech that I'm passionate about, and it is this version of fintech that open banking has been helping for us here in the UK. My view that our collective understanding of fintech is outdated and hasn't yet caught up with this new reality. Whether you're a regulator, a legislator, an investor, or an incumbent institution, this is how the fintech phenomenon needs to be understood. It was this version of the review that I used as a mechanism to guide the work for the government that we published earlier this year. I was keen to lead the review because I think fintech is still, in particular here in the UK, not yet fulfilling its transformational potential. whilst we've got really, really strong cohorts of fintech startups that attract investment and impressive amounts, you heard again this morning, that already 5.1 billion has been raised in terms of investing in fintechs for 2021 in the first 6 months. Put that in context. Last year, it was 4.1 billion. So you start to see the significant growth in investment that we're seeing. We have a supportive and world-leading policy environment, encouraging innovation through initiatives such as open banking and the regulatory sandbox. But the challenge was, and it remains, one of scale and adoption. If we're to truly see the transformative impact of fintech, we need to be more ambitious. And I think there are several opportunities. Open banking presents for the UK the opportunity for transformational potential. Let me talk to 3 opportunities. The first one is digital ID. Today, more than 1 billion people around the world have no formal way of proving who they are. 1 billion people is 1/7 of the population of the world. In many cases, this means that they struggle to secure basic services, including access to healthcare, education, and finance. The role of open banking infrastructure that's already in place could be a possible means for providing identity verification. But how about adding standard interfaces for verifying age, address, nationality, and government identification to existing open banking standards? Whilst there are many, many political and regulatory issues that must be figured out, the benefits are huge. The second opportunity is SME lending. SMEs are an engine growth for the UK's economy, and they represent 50% of our GDP. Open banking can help SMEs become more resilient, productive, and profitable. From cloud accounting and sophisticated cash flow management, these platforms allow fees to be reduced. Businesses can improve their financial management and therefore their ability to cope with the change when cash flow becomes tight. Open banking is allowing SMEs to shop around to ensure that their current financial provider is giving them the best deal. Despite this, with many small businesses having to take on additional loans due to the pandemic, only 18% of them took advantage of alternative credit options. Open banking has the potential to assist with better borrowing by opening up a wealth of credit as well as preferential lending rates. Thirdly, let me touch on open finance. This is the next stop on the open banking ladder. It'll allow financial data such as mortgages, savings, pensions, insurance, and consumer credit. In other words, your entire financial footprint to be opened up to trusted third-party APIs, should you agree. The ultimate goal is to improve consumers' financial health, driven by market innovation and competition. In Australia, their CDR legislation is already making customer banking, energy, and telecommunications data available. And that's being done in order to catalyse improved fintech activity. So in fact, the Australians have described their CDR model to me as a mirror and upgrade of the UK's approach to open banking. These examples demonstrate how open banking and indeed open finance are the bedrock and the future of financial services. And the likes of Open Banking Excellence and the OBIE, I think, are doing a tremendously important job in pioneering adoption. But what these examples also show and demonstrate is the importance of collaboration. And not only collaboration between our public and private sectors, but also between our traditional incumbent players and the new fintech entrants. And this was a challenge I wanted to address in the review. I wanted to consider how we build on the excellent foundations that we already have established through open banking and our other key ecosystem strengths, such as the availability of fintech talent and capital in order to realize the transformational impact of fintech. But what this came down to was a key question around how do we manage the combination of our thriving startup ecosystem in fintech with that of a mature, well-established and globally leading financial services industry. We already have much of the fundamentals, and open banking is testament to that. Rather than it being a problem, our strengths in both must be recast as a competitive advantage, since very, very few around the world can replicate it. The review looked in particular at market development and how to create the means to scale products and solutions in a way that was firm agnostic, in other words, drawing on the strengths of our supportive and progressive policy environment, startups and incumbents to deliver outcomes that would service a domestic customer base, but also to bolster our competitiveness globally. Let me quickly highlight a few recommendations that speak to this opportunity directly. The first one is the Centre for Finance, Innovation and Technology, CFIT. We wanted to look at how to bring private providers of all stripes, large, small, new, established, together with regulators, investors and consumer groups to create solutions, partnerships and products that could improve the market for end user across a number of perspective areas. These include open finance, SME lending, financial inclusion, and digital ID. The USP of CFIT will be building coalitions of actors across these different areas to solve market-wide challenges. This, in turn, will create better conditions for individual market actors to operate in. Another recommendation was the scale box. The scale box is about, we've set the benchmark, I think, for policy-led innovation, proven not only by open banking, but also the fact that now 50 other countries have replicated the FCA's regulatory sandbox around the world. This recommendation was about building on this good work to provide a suite of enhanced support for scaling businesses. We reflected on the feedback that came from so many, from particularly startups who felt exposed to the full gambit of the FCA regulations when they moved out of the sandbox. The FCA is now responding through the Fintech Nursery, as they refer to it, providing extra support for newly licensed firms. They're also establishing a digital sandbox in partnership with the City of London Corporation. This is a digital testing environment that will enable innovators to develop and validate their tech products through access to synthetic data and targeted ecosystem support. The third area I want to touch on in terms of the recommendations was the Digital Economy Task Force. This is a recommendation that's not been taken up explicitly, but I think its essence has been absorbed by the government. Essentially, what we found when talking to stakeholders was that there's a lot of interest and competency in fintech, tech, and digital across Whitehall and the regulators, but not enough coordination. The purpose of the Digital Economy Task Force will be to bring these groups together and create one single vision and a strategy for digital policy making. Specifically, its role will be to solve cross-cutting challenges that are relevant to multiple sectors. For example, in open banking, open data, digital ID. We can certainly point to progress here by looking at the work of the Digital Regulation Cooperation Forum, a body that brings together the CMA, Ofcom, ICO, and now, from April this year, the FCA. In short, the UK is now moving slowly towards utilising all our assets to grow the market. Initiatives such as CFIT, the Sandbox, when combined with the progress we've already made on open banking, gives us an opportunity that very few can match. To utilise all of fintech, the financial services, and even big tech, to develop the market for both UK consumers and global export opportunities. But what the review was showing was that, ironically, this cannot be left to the market. It demands a deliberate approach to policy and strategy from government, from regulators, and the private sector to come together to solve market challenges and that are beyond one firm. Any one firm cannot build universally accepted, interoperable forms of digital ID, nor can the government successfully implement open finance on its own. But if these things do happen, and they should happen, then all of the startup IP and the technology that we've created suddenly has a market to grow into and, frankly, new infrastructure to operate on. This is how we go from startup to scale up, and from those developers in Shoreditch to solutions that enjoy widespread adoption. This is how we realize the true opportunity of fintech. Productivity gains, new future-proof jobs, which is such a crucial element of making sure that we build back better. And these jobs at home and global export champions on the world stage. Providing we can reframe and reimagine the potential of fintech in the way that I've described it, it will not only improve the financial outcomes for consumers and businesses, but it'll also be a huge contributor to our economic and soft power abroad. In 2019, fintech's direct contribution to the economy in the UK was £5.3 billion. By 2030, we think it could be as much as £24 billion. The review has done the easy part in coming up with the right ideas. Now, we all collectively have to make them a reality. Thank you for listening.